I don't care what anybody says. Vivek stole the show last night. I know the New York Post is all mad at him. Vivek implodes. No, he did fine. He did totally fine. It was hilarious. And a lot of people at home who were watching enthusiastically agreeing with the words coming out of his mouth. Doesn't mean they're voting for him, but they certainly agree with the guy. Welcome to the program. It is 3:07 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Rick Santorum, the former U.S. Senator, is here with us. We'll talk about the state of the Republican Party, as well as that debate last night. Daniel Turner is here at 4 o'clock. We'll do a deeper fact check on something Lester Holt said yesterday evening regarding American energy. Adam Credo is here from the Washington Free Beacon at 4:30 as we take a closer look at who exactly is funding Rashida Tlaib, and are they Hamas? And Mark Paoletta joins us at 5 o'clock today as Democrats in the Senate try and hurt justices, Supreme Court justices, who are not lunatic liberals. That's really what's happening, and that's what we like to talk about here on the Vince Coglianese Show. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yes, indeed. The breaking news, you just heard Dan talking about it moments ago. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has just in the last few minutes announced that he is not running for re-election in 2024. He is out. He is out. Here's Joe Manchin making the announcement. Now listen to this and tell me if you think this man is ending his political career or he's only moving on to the next thing.
After months of deliberation and long conversation with my family, I believe in my heart of hearts that I have accomplished what I set out to do for West Virginia. I have made one of the toughest decisions of my life and decided that I will not be running for re-election to the United States Senate. But what I will be doing is traveling the country and speaking out to see if there is an interest in creating a movement to mobilize the middle and bring Americans together. To the West Virginians who have put their trust in me and fought side by side to make our state better, it has been my honor of my life to serve you. Thank you.
Wow, this is fascinating. I'm not the only one saying this right now. Somebody at the White House is saying this, but in a much more dour tone. Wow, this is fascinating. So there's Joe Manchin. He says, I deliberated, tough decision. I'm not running for re-election. I won't be doing that, but I'm going to be traveling the country. He's going to be going on a listening tour. Will he be riding on the back of a train? He'll be stopping town to town, finding out what the people think, what they want, what they desire, to offer people an alternative, a different way, a middle road. Is the man running for president? That's the fundamental question here. Is he running for president? And how much is this making Joe Biden sweat right now? Do you get the sense that a lot of 2016, 2020 Trump voters are all clamoring for Joe Manchin right now? Boy, if only Joe Manchin was in the race, I would support that guy. They got a bad case of the Joe Manchins. Do you think that's happening right now? I saw Ben Dominus tweet this point, and I agree with him on this. We need the polls immediately on this subject. Give me some nationwide polls, and more importantly, give me some swing state polls on what this looks like right now. The breakdown between Trump and Biden and Manchin and Kennedy. Let's see the numbers. There was some thought that Kennedy running, remember Robert F. Kennedy Jr., if his run would hurt Trump because Kennedy has been honest about going after the pharmaceutical companies and honest about the government lying to you time and again on all sorts of really important things involving medicine, specifically the COVID jab, that, what do they call it? A health supplement, at best, a health supplement. It's not a vaccine. It doesn't actually stop the spread of the disease. So what does it do? Well, it stops it a little. It makes it less severe. Okay, that's kind of like taking a vitamin, what you're describing. So it's a health supplement is what you're telling me, except with extra horrific side effects. Yeah. So Robert F. Kennedy's been going after that. People have liked him on that, but he's also like crazy on all sorts of really important issues. He's bought into the climate hoax. He's, which is a vehicle for empowering the government and at your expense, taking away your liberty. He's enthusiastically pro-abortion, which is crazy. I don't care how many people vote in favor of it. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. And so an alternative, Joe Manchin, the pro-life guy, the pro-life Democrat, one of the only running for office. We'll see what he does. My guess is he'll chip away at some of the Democrat support here. He hasn't officially announced a run for president. Now, what does that mean for West Virginia? What does it mean for the power in the Senate? It does very likely mean that Republicans can count on at least having a shot at winning a seat. I'd hate to say the words they can count on having a seat, given Republican performance in every available election since 2016. It would be foolish of me to say, oh, yeah, that's a sure thing. Yeah, not anymore. Not at all. But it is pretty good. It looks like Jim Justice is the most likely Republican for that role. Jim Justice is the governor of West Virginia. A couple of years back, he was actually a Democrat in West Virginia. And then, remember, quite famously, he stood on a stage in West Virginia alongside the then president of the United States, Donald Trump, and announced that he was instead becoming a Republican. No more being a Democrat for him. He's a Republican now. But either way, if he wins the job, he will then conference with Republicans in the United States Senate. So that's a big deal in a Senate where things are so very tight, to the point that Kamala Harris is the breaking vote. So that could be interesting. So that's the breaking news this hour. And I don't know. I assume then that actually means, I did say that I thought Joe Manchin would be packing up his houseboat if he's quitting Washington, but I think he's kind of tempted to make it an executive houseboat, don't you think? The first houseboat. He envisions that. I'm guessing they probably won't let him keep the houseboat if he were to win. I also think that scenario is extremely unlikely. But Joe Manchin, I don't know. What do they say about senators? Every time they look in the mirror, they see a president? Isn't that the phrase? When senators look in the mirror, they see the president of the United States? Maybe what happened with Joe Manchin. Manchin, who is the sanest possible Democrat. And it's not saying much, but he's the one guy who every so often is like, this is a little crazy. I'm not on board with this. It's quite a commentary. So, again, breaking news this hour. Joe Manchin has announced his retirement for the United States Senate, and he is freaking out the Biden campaign right now. Right now. Let's see here. Let's get Ann in Alexandria in here, line 2. She wants to weigh in on this subject. Ann, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. I wanted to start out by saying I've done over 500 campaigns, so I have a little background on political commentary on
Right
this.
on.
There's one reason Manchin's out. Jim Justice was handing his butt to him. Justice was in the race because he despises Manchin, and he was going to wipe him out. Jim Justice will be the next senator, no question. Manchin was behind him anywhere from 20 to 40 points. Mm-hmm. Justice is runaway, wildly popular. I just got off the phone with friends in West Virginia. They thought it was hysterical. People were shocked Manchin dropped out. He had to. He was going to get wiped out. And he is no labels wet dream. You know, they have this great thing where he's going to go out there and be their third-party candidate.
Right.
Dream on. The man can't carry his own state, and he ain't carrying any others either.
How about it? All right. Yeah, well, that's a good point. He sees the writing on the wall here that Jim Justice was just a better candidate.
What it is.
But additionally, you do listen to that video, and it maybe just be a cope. It may be like, hey, don't you worry, I'm off to bigger and better things. People oftentimes, when they get fired from television, it's because they're going to start working on a special project. They want to spend more time with their family, whatever. But in this case, I wouldn't put it past Manchin to pursue a presidential run. Would you, Ann?
No, I think he might. And like I said, no labels may encourage him to do it, but it is a total wet dream. There's no way.
Yeah.
No way.
All right. Well,
the man is a fraud. He was able to pull the wool over a lot of people's eyes for a while, but no, not going anywhere.
Hey, take it from Ann. She's been a part of, what did you say, 40 campaigns, Ann?
No, over 500.
500? I'm sorry, I got that number wrong. You've been a part of 500 campaigns?
All over the country at all levels. Done everything from, envelope stuffing to fundraising to strategic to everything.
Okay. So, have you ever kept track of your record? Have you ever looked back and said, okay, here's what my record is?
More won than lost. And back in the 70s, I was part of a group that helped build the conservative base to elect Reagan. I'm old. What can I say, Vince? But I've been in a lot of races.
It's good to be old. It's good to be old. Old people know things. And thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sure enough.
Really appreciate that. That's good. She's batting higher than 500. Maybe we need to bring her up to the RNC or something. Get Ann in there. Let's keep Ann's number. You never know when you'll need it. Amazing. Maybe anyway, just amazing. So there you have it. Yeah, Jim Justice was likely to win that race. Ann astutely points out. Let's see. Larry is calling in from Alexandria. Would like to make a point on winning in Republican politics. Hello, Larry.
Hey, Vince. Hey, good to talk to you. Just want to let you know that, we have problems here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I'm a one army of one right now. But the problem with the Commonwealth of Virginia is with our Republican chairman, Rich Anderson. The guy is a failed military leader as well, and he needs to go. My beef with Rich Anderson and the rich people from Richmond is they always neglect Northern Virginia. We are part of the Commonwealth, too. If we can't get a chairman that's going to take care of all Republicans, we don't need him. Rich Anderson is worthless. If anybody out there is listening, we've got to get rid of that man. Like they want to get rid of Ronna McDaniel, we need to show Rich a new road.
Well, it seems a basic assessment, Larry, that if you're in a situation where you lose elections, then it might be time for a different coach. I think that's a reasonable conclusion. You said he was a failed military leader. I believe Rich is a Marine. Is that right?
No, he's retired Air Force. He was a one-star general in the Air Force.
Excuse me.
He's the example of the type of failed military leaders we have. When you can't win wars and those kind of things, we don't need military leaders. We definitely don't need leaders like that in the Republican Party.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not in a position to assess his military qualifications, but on this point, on the election point, we're looking at an election that was just lost in Virginia, and I'm not surprised, Larry, that you have that opinion. A lot of people do. Thank you. Really appreciate the call.
Thank you.
And look, this came up last night, obviously in a really big way on that debate stage. I kind of started the program saying like this Vivek Ramaswamy, he's just he's not playing the game. I told a friend last night, I think Vivek is kind of like Donald Trump if he was over prepared for a debate. Like Vivek does all the homework, he comes in, he's got all these lines. And you can look at him and go, that guy's kind of smug, and he's getting above his station, and he's too young to talk like that. What does he know? Blah, 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 blah. And I see a lot of that. I don't know. I guarantee you that the reaction outside of that debate hall, to the extent people were watching it at all, was way more positive and approving than the people who were inside the debate hall. Remember Donald Trump famously denounced the people who were booing him at a debate? He looks around and he goes, all these people who are booing me right now, they're all donors to the other people on this stage. They're not even like reflective of the people who are voting for me. And he cut right through it because normally like nobody's attacking the in-studio audience. Vivek even goes out of his way to mention some of this during his remarks last night. Here's Vivek Ramaswamy in his opening statement, just taking out his guns and blazing with both barrels.
Mr. Ramaswamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. There's a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made-up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ronna.
Sorry. This is how we get our country back.
Who else wants some? Who else wants some? Anybody else? Who's next? Just like screaming, just walking into the room, be like, I'm going to fight every single one of you in here. Step right up. So he came in guns blazing, like right away. Now, imagine being Ronna McDaniel. What are you reacting to? I didn't talk about this on the air yesterday. This is one of those times where I look back and I go, man, we should have talked about this. But there was some chatter online yesterday ahead of the debate. Hey, one of these candidates should go on stage and cough for Ronna's head and just say, it's time for you to resign. And I said, Corey told me about this. He said, this is happening right now. People are tweeting this. And I was like, oh, man, that'd be the most gangster thing you've ever seen. If somebody steps up on that stage and they're like, yeah, I know I'm at an RNC debate. That lady, she's got to go. She's got to go. You can pack up your stuff, step up out of the chair, walk out of the room if you have any pride whatsoever. Like if you said that's a gangster move on this debate stage. So he pulled it. I don't know if he got the idea on the internet or if he just was like, this is a great idea, but he pulled it. Ronna McDaniel responded. And guess who she responded to? That's right, WMAL. Larry O'Connor interviewed her yesterday. Right after this went down, I'll play that audio for you in a moment. It is 3:21 now.
So that was rough to hear from Vivek, wasn't it?
Listen, I'm going to focus on Joe Biden. I've said this to you on your show, though, before. This Republican on Republican vitriol and infighting is not good for our party. I'm not running for president. I'm here trying to win for our party. He just lost a vote. He lost my son's vote. I'll tell you that much. But I will say this. The voters don't want to see this. They want to see us talk about the border. They want to see us talk about Israel. They want to see us talk about how we can win. And when you do that, you're not talking about Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Remember, that's Ronna McDaniel. Vivek did point at Virginia and say, hey, look, the loss is there. What did the RNC do? You should step down. That's what he's saying. Larry did ask Ronna about that. Listen to her very interesting answer here.
What's your analysis of the results in Virginia, though? You know, we on our radio station, we were...
The RNC's not a state committee. We're a federal committee, right? Your candidates can take unlimited state dollars and your governor can take unlimited state dollars. And he actually said, we don't need you guys here. So I will say this about...
Wait. So Youngkin told the RNC, we don't need your help. We don't need your money. That's what he told her. That's what she just said. Unless I'm misunderstanding the English language, I'm fairly certain she just said that Youngkin refused help from the RNC.
Virginia. Your governor did a great job. He got in.
And then she says he did a great job.
Pushing the bank the vote. But if you were there watching the ads like I was, every Democrat ad was about abortion. Every Republican ad was about crime. And we're cross-talking. And if Republicans can't get up and say they are lying to you about my position on abortion on TV, then the lie becomes the truth. And that's what I will say. And I did not see that in Virginia.
Yeah, that's her assessment of what happened in Virginia. Let me take a quick phone call. I've got John in Nokesville, line 1. John, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello.
Yeah, I want to disagree with that caller about Rich Anderson. I've known him for, nearly 20 years, and he was in the House of Delegates in Virginia. By the way, he was a colonel, a full colonel, and 30 years plus in the Air Force.
Got it.
And he would, in any 2-year period between his elections in the House of Delegates, he would go to every single household, door-to-door knocking. I think it was 17,000 households. He would systematically go door-to-door. That's a warrior. And he's all over the state, going to committee meetings, encouraging, coaching. He is running so many miles on his car, going to meetings for the local Republican committee meetings and stuff. The guy is a warrior, and his wife also, Ruth. She was on the Board of Supervisors for the county also retired from the Air Force. So I totally disagree. You can't blame the leader when the voter himself or herself is liberal. And we have huge influx of liberals moving into Virginia that are voting, and that's what's changing. It's not that we have poor leadership. It's that we have a lot of really poor voting.
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence you have for Rich, and we're grateful for all the times we talked to Rich throughout this. He's always been a gentleman, and I agree with you. I can see that he's a hard worker. But it is legitimate to look at a loss and say, what do we change? What's it gonna take? Strategy, leadership. Because if you just keep on doing the same thing and then losing, you can put in a lot of hard work, but that's not good enough. We need some winning for sure. John, thank you again for the vote of confidence there for Rich. It is 3:30. Hey there, it's 3:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Daniel Turner joins us at 4 o'clock. We'll talk energy with him, as we always do, specifically as it relates to some nonsense NBC was spreading last night during the debate. Adam Credo will be with us from the Washington Free Beacon at 4:30. We'll talk to him about the latest as things get a little more hot in the Middle East, especially as it relates to Americans under fire. And then Mark Paoletta is here at 5 o'clock. Democrats are trying to hurt Clarence Thomas, as always. They hate that guy. They really hate that guy. And Mark Paoletta will give us the latest. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Yeah, a lot to get to for us today, including, you see these allegations that not just pretty well substantiated allegations that the United States Department of Justice has been once again spying on Congress, that the executive branch has been spying on the legislative branch of the United States federal government. We have a report here from the Washington Examiner today. The Justice Department now faces Senate investigation over alleged spying on congressional staffers. Senate Judiciary Committee Republicans are now investigating the allegations that the Justice Department spied on congressional staffers while they probed the agency, including during its handling of the Trump-Russia inquiry. You got that? So Congress was examining the Trump-Russia lies, and the Justice Department apparently was then spying on Congress in order to keep track of what they were finding. What are they getting close to? Virginia-based whistleblower firm Empower Oversight said in a late October Freedom of Information Act request to the DOJ that its founder, Jason Foster, former chief investigative counsel to Chuck Grassley, was notified on October 19th of this year that the agency in 2017 subpoenaed Google for records on Foster's telephone and email accounts. So Chuck Grassley's guy was being investigated by the Justice Department in 2017, as well as those of other House and Senate staffers. Now, Senators Ted Cruz, who we talked to yesterday, Mike Lee, and Grassley are demanding that the Department of Justice turn over a trove of documents on these allegations, which they wrote in a Monday letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland. They say they demonstrate executive branch overreach. Well, yeah, that you may be understating the case. So you have the Justice Department, and remember, this is the out-of-control Justice Department when Donald Trump was president of the United States, once again spying on Congress. And it's not the first time this has happened. In fact, the CIA spied on the United States Senate when John Brennan was running the show, and then he lied to Congress about it. We'll get into more detail on that coming up. In the meantime, I do want to get back to the issue of the elections this week and the state of the Republican Party and what comes next. And for that, I've got a good guest on that subject. It's former U.S. Senator Rick Santorum from the state of Pennsylvania. Sir, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. It's always great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
It's always so great to talk to you. Let me. I think I want to talk about the debate in part with you, and especially as it relates to what should Republican Party leadership look like. Vivek Ramaswamy made a big deal of saying Ronna McDaniel should resign last night. But let's focus first and foremost on this week's elections. There was a lot of belief that things are so crappy right now that Republicans will be the beneficiary of all of that crappiness, and it's just not the case. Republicans really. There are a couple of wins here and there. Buda Biberai thrown out in Loudoun County, wonderful. But by and large, Republicans didn't fare very well this week. The left says it's abortion. That's the issue, and they're going to keep running on it. What do you make of all of this?
Look, you can't argue that they ran on abortion and, they were successful. I mean, somewhat. I mean, they wanted Virginia, but, Virginia's a pretty blue state. And they got a one-seat majority in the House and a one-seat majority in the Senate. So it's not like they ran the table or anything like that. And they didn't really beat anybody in a district that had any kind of Republican leanings to it. I mean, the Republicans were going to have to pick up seats that were, +6, +7, +8 Democrat. That's hard to do in any election. Remember, it's midterm Youngkin. So, usually midterm a governor or midterm a president, you don't pick up seats. So, yeah, I mean, you can argue that they ran abortion and they were able to hold on to their seats by running that. But I'm not sure that, that they can make a big claim that this is going to be a great thing for them in swing elections. In Ohio, yeah, they won on abortion and they won on marijuana. But
yes.
Number one, they outspent them 2-1. Yeah, Andy Bashir won. He outspent them like 3-1. So, I mean, the big problem here, and this is why you can blame Ronna McDaniel, but I'll tell you who else I blame. And I don't know who's running for president on that stage last night, because no one in that field really, I mean, other than a couple of offhand comments that they made, no one was running against the person who's running the race. Usually when you're in a debate, you go after the person at the top of the, who's ahead of you.
Right.
Nobody did. And you can say, well, Chris Christie's done it. Yeah, that's one. But if he's the only one, then it just looks like, well, he's got a personal bone to pick with Trump. I don't know if it was me last night, and I've been on that presidential stage many times for a debate, I would have gotten it with Nikki, and I would have gotten with DeSantis, and I would have said, look, I said, we either have to hold hands and go after this guy because he's not here. He's playing. He's just going to watch us and make fun of us from the sides as we sit in the sandbox and throw sand at each other.
Right.
I said we got to pull them into this debate, and they're not. And so to me, they're not doing it for one of two reasons. Either that they're running for 2028, or they're running for vice president, or the third reason is they think that Trump is going to get convicted and not be on the ticket, and they want to leave a viable option to be picked at the convention. Because there's no other excuse for their behavior.
Well, there is one other lane that I can think of, Senator Santorum, which is they don't want to alienate Trump supporters. I mean, we've got record numbers of people in the United States that both supported Trump in the first place and then as an incumbent tried to reelect him. And I think the angle that every one of them on stage, except for Chris Christie, is taking is they want to appeal to those Trump voters. But if you can't attack Trump, you can't delineate yourself.
I was just saying, I accepted that for a long time. I mean, not that I haven't talked to the campaigns and not that I haven't been commenting on this for a while.
Right.
I accepted the fact. Look, if you want to play it safe and you want to just see if you can make your way without having to go after Trump. The Democrats have made that impossible by making him a martyr. And so the only option at this point, look, you're 2.5 months away.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't decide I'm going to go try to win this thing, inertia is going to be your problem.
Let me ask you, you're in a unique position to talk about this as a man who won Iowa. The focus among these not Trump candidates right now, at least especially in Ron DeSantis' case, is I need to win Iowa. If I can win Iowa, that's a head of steam. Is that wise? Is Iowa the strategy? Does that make any meaningful difference in a race that has this much of a separation?
I don't think you have any choice. I mean, there's no really other opportunity. You have an opportunity in Iowa because Iowans, unlike most of the country, don't just follow the horse in front of them. I mean, they're the lead horse. And so they aren't blind. They don't have blinders on. They're just they're not accepting what most of the conservative talking heads are talking about. They actually get the chance to meet the candidates. They actually can measure up those candidates and decide who they want. And they take that responsibility seriously. And I have no doubt that a non-Trump candidate can win there. But they're not going to win if you're not willing to show that you got the guts to lead and to take on the problem that is the Republican Party right now, which is Donald Trump. And look, I understand Vivek went after Ronna McDaniel last night, but the idea that Ronna McDaniel is the leader of the Republican Party, that's a joke. Nobody knows who Ronna McDaniel is. The leader of the Republican Party since 2016 is Donald Trump. And for Vivek and for nobody on that stage to say, well, look, yeah, Ronna's had her problems, but the reason we're losing is because the face of the Republican Party, the person we've got to run with, is Donald Trump. And no one did that. Again, not serious. You just can't convince me that these folks are serious about winning this race if they're not willing to get serious about what the problems are confronting the party.
But I guess a couple of things that I can think of. One is that Ronna does control resources within the party, and that's really what this comes down to. In fact, when she was asked about this yesterday by our colleague Larry O'Connor, that hey, what's the deal with Virginia? She said we offered money to Virginia, and we offered money to the governor, and he refused it. He said no, we don't need your help. So she was kind of passing blame in terms of how that was conducted yesterday. The other piece is like when it comes to reasons for why Republicans are losing. I do see a lot of people trying to blame Trump and saying, hey, it's his fault, and that's why Republicans aren't performing well. And then simultaneously, I see, well, it's abortion. Abortion is the explanation for why Republicans aren't doing well, and those feel like mutually exclusive explanations because Trump is not some sort of enthusiastic pro-lifer. In fact, he comes around and he kind of smacks the pro-life industry around occasionally, the people who are fighting for it. And he says things like, oh, I think it's a money-making enterprise, that kind of thing. So it does seem that there's a lot of like clawing around for explanations and nobody quite sticking the landing.
Well, look, it doesn't have to be one thing. I think it can be more than one thing. It certainly you look at the fact that I always say that for Democrats, politics is their religion. They don't go to church by and large. You don't see a lot of Democrats in the pews anymore. And most of the, certainly the left, the progressives, they don't have families. They don't go to church. They don't have families. Their religion is politics. Their religion is government. And that's where they give their money every week and every other week. Right. And whereas Republicans don't. And look at the turnout. I mean, the turnout in Ohio among Republicans was pathetic. I mean, we have a lot of Republicans who again, this is a hobby for them. this is the religion for the Democrats. It's a hobby for Republicans.
Yes.
I mean, we see look, and I'm not criticizing Republicans in this respect. They see God, they see family, and then they see country. And by the way, I think that's the right order. But you have to understand, if you want to be able to have the freedom to worship God and to raise your family the way you want, you got to have a country to do it in. And I think everyone sort of looks at this that, America will be fine. Well, if there's anything we should have learned, America's not going to be fine if we don't engage. And if you look at voter turnout among conservatives, particularly in off-year elections, they're terrible, number one. Number two, and this is where you can point to Trump, Trump can turn people out. But, he turns people out for him. He doesn't turn people out for anybody else. And that's the problem, is we have a personality. We're in a sense, the Republican Party has been a cult of personality party anymore. And that does not bode well for when your cult figure isn't on the ballot.
Well, there's no question. Yeah, when Republicans on the ballot, big numbers turn out. That's just mathematically true. And so it'll be interesting to see, should he be the nominee and he's next year, what a difference maker that might be. But on this point about Democrats and the way they treat voting, I was talking to Chris Bedford earlier this week about this subject. And, one thing we were noting is that, Democrats, their leadership have basically fetishized the act of voting, but without consideration for what the effects would be. So they just say, they tell voters, people in their own base, the most important thing you can do is vote, and that's like your whole life, and that's you expressing yourself, and you have to vote for what we tell you to, and there you go. That's it. That's the whole thing. Whereas Republicans, they're not like that. Republican voters are not like that at all. They're skeptical. They've got busy lives. They've got priorities, and so we're dealing with two very different electorates, to your point.
That's why off-year elections tend to not be great elections for Republicans, is because we're not motivated by the civic duty, or more importantly, by a passion about the role of government in our lives being the central thing that drives us to do this. And it's a problem, and not just that, but it's also money. I mean, Republicans are now, for probably 10, 12 years now, are just being habitually, just horribly outspent. And it's two reasons. Number one, what we just talked about, which is, Republicans give money to send their kids to school and to provide for them and to contribute to their church and their nonprofit. Whereas Democrats, I mean, their faith, their religion, their collection box is giving to candidates. And so there's huge numbers of grassroots Democrats who contribute to candidates on a regular basis. Not true among Republicans, just not big donors. Number one. Number two is where the money is in this country. I mean, money in this country up until 25 years ago, rich business people were conservatives and Republicans. Now, rich business people are all leftists. They're big tech. They're folks who made money in the new economy, and they're all left. And even the old economy companies are now being more and more populated by leftists. And so the big dollars, the billionaires, overwhelmingly are leftists. And guess what? These leftists aren't any different than the low-income leftists. Government is their god, right?
Yes.
Other than they made their money in business, they feel guilty about it, so they just give all this money to left-wing causes and to politics.
Yeah, the left.
So it's a very tough situation for Republicans financially right now.
The left is their church, and that's how they pay their tithe.
Yep.
They're a bunch of devout Democrats. Okay, hey, as always, Senator Rick Santorum.
By the way,
go ahead.
By the way, their sacrifice, in my opinion, is abortion. There's always something that needs to be sacrificed, and in my opinion, that's exactly what's going on. Is we have traditional sacrifice. In this case, it's the sacrifice of little babies to appease the masses.
Yep, unquestionably, human sacrifice is very much. I don't want to say alive and well, but it's here. Thank you very much, Rick Santorum. Good to talk to you, sir.
Thanks.
We were talking about Ronna McDaniel this hour, as Vivek called for her resignation yesterday. And her one answer to Larry was interesting and I thought compelling, for sure. And I'm getting some social media messages to that effect. When she said, hey, look, Democrats are running on abortion, 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 and making that their whole thing. And then Republicans don't actually have any meaningful answers to it. They're not running counter-advertising saying, hey, there are lies being told here. A lot of lies. You're being lied to. Once again, these Democrats are lying to you. And this gets to something Senator Santorum was just saying a moment ago, which is money. You've got to have the money. First of all, you have to have the strategy to run that kind of messaging. But secondly, you've got to have the money to support it. And if you're looking at race after race across the country, Republicans being outspent 2-1, there's not one answer to all of this. This is a multi-front battle. It's all over. The left is everywhere. They really are. And it's going to take all of us moving in our own ways to fight back against it. Daniel Turner will talk energy with us moments from now. Yesterday on that GOB debate stage, one of the moderators insisted something about gas prices that just isn't true. Daniel Turner will address that moments from now.